What's up guys? How you guys doing? Hope everything okay. I think this is little after a long time. It's fine. You want to learn microservice from A to Z, design, development, deployment, not only that, service discovery, load balancing, security, everything? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to the journey. If you remember, I was uploading a microservices video from almost last year. I'm getting good comment, feedbacks, and a lot of people contacting me through LinkedIn and everywhere. But out of those all the comments, I saw one comment which is different. That comment says, "Dude, everyone knows about theory. Everyone talks about theory. Where's the practical? Just teach us how to do this." Okay, it's fair enough. That's true, right? Everyone talk about theories and everyone can read a book and talk about theories, but the most important is practical. That's why I'm going to start this. This is kind of a course, entire microservice journey, everything what you need to know. Not only about microservices, finally we are going to deploy this to AWS or whatever the clouds you want and complete A to Z complete course. Okay, but we need to adhere to few rules. If you want to success about this course, we have to adhere to few rules. Rule number 1, you need to know about microservice theoretical part. For that, go to microservice playlist of this channel and you can go through all 9 videos. Those videos talk about in detail theory and concepts behind the microservices. Why we doing this, what are the places we can do this, right? Everything are there. Rule number 2, you need to follow this course in the same order what I'm going to upload. The reason is because I'm going to do small videos part by part and those videos are connect with each other, right? So you may feel, okay, I know this part, I don't have to follow this video, but be patient and follow the course in the same order, because if you miss one video, then you may struggle to catch that from the next video, because this is a complete project, right? Rule number 3, I assume you know how to use JIT, because I'm going to push certain like predefined projects into the JIT. The reason is I don't want you to spend time in front of the YouTube and just watching I'm coding, right? So I'm going to push certain skeleton and also the final projects. If you struggle some places, you can download the project and you can see where you goes wrong, right? So therefore you need to know how to handle JIT. And for this course I'm going to use Java, so I expect you have a basic Java knowledge and kind of idea about service oriented architecture. Rule number 4, you need to ask questions, right? So if you follow this video exactly as I do, things will work, but there can be a cases things is not working with you, right? And also there may be cases which is not clear for you, so those cases you should ask questions. But don't ask question in the comment section, because it's really hard to follow the comments. Keep in mind, I read each and every comment you put, because that is really good asset for me to evaluate what I'm doing. And by the way, you need to send the question through either Twitter ideally or through Instagram also fine, right? So I'm going to answer all those questions what you sent to me, and also if it is something which is not clear, maybe we can do new other video to cover up those parts. There is one more thing to tell you. You may already have experience with Spring Boot, right? Maybe you have 1 year or 2 year experience with Spring Boot. But if you work with the Spring Boot 1 point some version, 1.5 or 1 point some X version, but we are going to cover here Spring 2 point versions, right? So there are differences. New annotations are there, the way we configure, way we secure service, things slightly different, right? So still it's worth to follow this course, because don't like think, okay, I know this and I did this in 1 point, so okay, I can skip this. No, it's better to follow, because it's a few minutes of your valuable time. Now it's time to start. So we learn microservices is all about deploying component as a service, right? So we usually have a monolithic giant applications, but now what we're going to do is each component we can deploy as a service, right? So and service can talk to each other and get the final job done. Okay, so during this course, I'm going to talk about Java as well as Spring Cloud and a Spring Boot as my framework to develop microservice. Okay, so you don't have to have a prior knowledge about Spring Boot or Spring, but if you have, that would be advantage. Before we start, I'm going to show you a few slides, but I'm not going to take you through this entire slides, but I promise all those things what is in this slide are covered in the videos on the microservice playlist, so you're not missing anything, right? So what I'm going to talk about here is about Spring Cloud and the Spring Boot. So Spring Cloud is released on 2015 as an open source framework, and also Spring Cloud is capable to run anywhere you want to deploy in the cloud. It is capable, and if you want to deploy in your own data center, that also is possible, right? So and also build its industry standard best practices and everything. When you take a Spring Boot that released on 2013 and version 1.0 released on 2014. This follow convention over configuration. What is a convention over configuration? That means we don't have a tons of configuration files to do. There is no tons of configuration to make, but there are conventions, right? For example, property files should place in this place. This is a predefined. It's a convention, right? So Spring follows those convention over configuration, right? So and dependency management, you can use either Gradle or you can use Maven. In this project, I'm going to use Maven, right? So then I want to show you something special regarding the IDE. Okay, so I'm going to use IntelliJ IDEA because I'm not an Eclipse person. Right? That is the only reason. But you have a really good IDE for Spring called Spring STS. Right. So if you familiar with the Eclipse, I would suggest go to Spring STS. That has everything. You don't have to write a lot of configurations. The ST is compatible for doing everything for you on Spring side, right? But if your IDE don't support Spring, for example, if you're using IntelliJ IDEA, which is the community edition, which doesn't support Spring, in that case, you need to somewhere to create this project. So this is the site start.spring.io. You can bookmark this site. This is really good site. So here you can select whether your project is Maven or Gradle or Java or Groovy, whatever, and I'm going to use a 2.1.1, which is the latest stable version, right? So you can here you can give your group name, right? And you can whatever the dependencies you want. If you want a Spring Web, you can use it. If you want a Spring Security, you can take it. If you want to Actuator, you can take it like that, right? So then you can generate the project. When you generate the project, it will download your zip file. Then you can go to your whatever the favorite IDE you want to use, and you can import this project and work from there, right? So that's make your life easy. However, since I'm using IntelliJ IDEA already inbuilt with the Spring support if you're using Ultimate Edition, okay? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a project, okay? So there also you can see it follow the same spring.io, right? So I'm going to call next, and my package group ID is com.krishant.rent. That is my rent a car. That's the application we are going to build, and this is demo application, and that's it. I'm not going to change anything else, right? But you can do if you want, right? Here it's asking which version you're going to use, right? So it's a Spring 2.1.1, which is the latest stable version right now, right? So I want to use Spring Web, right? And also I want to use Actuator. Okay, so these are the only two dependencies right now I want to use. Okay, so it's asking where I'm going to deploy this, create this project on the in your local machine. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to in the microservice demo and the demo application folder. Okay, it looks like I have a spelling mistake. Application. Okay, so it's all good. So now it will create a project for us. Right. So now when you go here, so you can see we have a POM file, right? So this POM file already has two dependencies, right? So Spring Start Actuator and Spring Starter Web, right? So what these two dependencies means, because there was a question I got, I don't remember in which training or which video, why this dependency is named as a starter, right? Can we deploy this to the production? Here's the thing, don't worry about the name. This starter main is a wrapper for you, right? It's wrap so many dependencies with this one dependency. That's a simple thing what it does, right? So other than that, there is no any differences, right? If you don't have a starter, you need to use the bunch of maybe 10 to 20 dependencies in this POM file. So your POM files get cluttered. You may miss certain things. You have to worry about the versions and everything. So what this does is, when you put the starter dependency, Spring knows what are the sub dependencies you need, right? It pushes it automatically through this starter wrap, right? So you can see this if you want, and you can open this in a terminal. Okay, so you can see mvn dependency tree, right? So now you can see here, right? So these are all the dependencies which downloaded by these three wrappers, right? So you can see here it's very clear, right? So we have this dependency, and that depend on this one, and this dependency depend on this one, and this depend on this one, right? And this one depend on this one. There are so many dependencies, we call transitive dependencies, right? So we don't have to worry about any of these, because you use a starter and the Spring knows how to do it. Right. So now when you get your project, so you can see the first startup class is already created, right, by this by the wizard, and now we just need to add the controller and get our project going. So before that, I just need to take a 1 minute to explain just basic structure of Spring application. It's the standard practice, right? So we have a controller, service, and repository. Controller is responsible to handle the traffic, route the traffic to the required service, or do whatever the traffic it mean to do. And also this is the last layer, so it is mean to handle the exception, right? You may already remember in a best practice, as an exception best practice, we have something called throw early, catch late, right? Throw early as possible, catch late as possible. So when you go this journey, controller to the service to the repository, the back to service and back to controller, this is the last layer we meet in the Spring Spring environment, right? So we have to handle the exceptions here. And then you have a service. Service is mean to hold business logics, right? So controller is supposed to handle the traffic, and service supposed to hold the business logic. And also sometimes we maintain states here, like we can, for example, we can generate new sessions, and we can do those things in this layer. And repository layer is supposed to deal with the databases, right? And all those database queries, CRUD operations, everything goes in the repository, right? So later this video, so I'm going to show you, maybe not in this video, maybe in another video, I'm going to show you how to use Spring Data JPA to make your life easy. You don't have to write any queries anymore. You don't have to maintain with the JDBC connections anymore, right? So Spring Data JPA is there to do everything for you. We can learn this in maybe third or fourth video, right? So now I'm going to create a controller here. So I'm going to create a controller. Let's say I'm going to name this as a main controller, right? And this has to annotate with REST control annotation, right? So let's, to make it clear, let's put into the different package, right? It's not necessary, but just to make it clear, right? So now you have a controller, and you can create a methods here, public string greeting. So now this is a Java method, right? We are going to call this from service. That means it is a HTTP, it's a URL, right? So now someone has to be there to map this URL to this method. We call that request mapping, right? So it mapped the request into the Java method, right? So we can say, hey, if someone is call the URL called hello, and then come here, okay? So this is it, and we just have a basic system ready to run, right? So you may already know we don't need any servlet container because Tomcat is embedded with this, so we just need to run this. Right. So now this project is running, right? So now we need a REST client to deal with this service, right? So you can use any REST client you want, right? I used to use Postman, but Postman has some limitation. For example, I had to deal with the services which return 25 to 30 megabyte responses. Then Postman is struggling to handle it. So then I switched to a new REST client called Insomnia. I think I pronounced this correct. If wrong, I'm sorry. So what I need to do is, so here I'm going to create a new service, right? Say, let's say I'm going to invoke a hello service here. So my URL is http localhost 8080/hello. That's the endpoint I gave, right? So now when I execute that, you can see it says hello Spring Boot, right? So this clearly coming from my controller, right? So this is simple, right? So we just took few minutes, we have a running microservice, okay? Right, so let's dig into few more parts here. If you go to this resource folder, so you can see application properties, right? So I'm not going to use application properties here, rather I'm going to use this as a YAML, right? Because property is a little bit ugly, right? So you have to repeat everything. So I'm going to use the application.yaml, right? So here you can change certain things. For example, if you want to change the port from 8080, which is the default one, 8191, right? So you just need to change it here, and I'm going to restart it. Okay. So now if I execute this service, it will give me error, right? So can't connect to server, right? So now I'm going to change the port to 8191. So now it's working, right? So this means in a Spring Boot application, there are multiple places. For example, if you put something on your class path, Spring is going to read it. And also if you put in the resource directory, actually what happens in here, in a Maven project, if you put something in the resource directory, it considered as in a class path in a runtime, right? So and also if you put something in the config directory, a resource config directory, that also take as a property file, right? So for now I'm going to modify this again because I need to use this in port 8080. Okay. So then now see this one. So now here in my main controller, I have a method called hello, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the post request to this. See what's going to happen, right? So first we'll see our get request is working, and it's working. So I'm going to change this to post. So when I change this to post, still it's working, right? So that means this method is capable to handle get and post both requests, right? So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say method is equal request method dot, not delete but get. Okay. So I'm going to restart this. Okay. So now when I execute the post request, it will give me error. See, methods not allowed, right? Why? Because now my method only support for get request, right? So if you want something in the post to support in the post request, what simply you can do is, right? So you can create a different method. So let's say I'm going to say hello Spring from post method. Right, so this is from post method and this will be post, right? Same URL but two methods, one is a get method, another one is a post one, right? So now we'll see we need to get two different messages if this is working properly. Okay, so hello Spring from post. So now I'm going to change this to get. right? It just say hello spring. So now it is clear. We get responses from a post request and the get request. How we can do that? We can change the method, right? We can change the method of the request mapping, so it knows which method, which REST method is mapped with this which Java method. Now we know how we can create a simple microservice using Spring Boot, right? So it's just a beginning. We have a lot more to dig into this technology. However, we are not going to do it today in this video, but from the next video, I'm going to talk about the actuator endpoint. From Spring Boot 1 to Spring Boot 2.0, so actuator endpoint, how it behave and how it works changed a lot, right? Security model and how you can extend it, how you can create your new actuator endpoints. Things change a lot, right? So still there are very less documentations are available, but I'm going to discuss that little in detail in the next video, right? So follow me on Twitter and the Instagram, and like on my Facebook pages, and also subscribe to this channel and also click on this small bell icon, so then you won't miss any videos. Then I'll see you on next video. Keep in mind, practice make perfect, right? So don't postpone to tomorrow. Do it today. Get your favorite IDE and get the sample project done, and be ready for the next one. See you in another video. Have a good time to you.